Thank you so much, Paul. My name is Carolina Muturi, the Africa Coordinator of Ibon International, headquartered in Manila, Philippines. We also have Africa Regional Hub based in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for this opportunity to share on our work in climate, development, aggression, and corporate capture, and also to close the program on this webinar that's titled Committing to the Flow of Water of People-Centered Water Action at the United Nations Water Conference 2023. This conversation is timely, especially in this part of the world, considering the ravaging drought, the worst in 40 years, and the floods that were experienced 3 days ago in Kenya. Today, we heard from our incredible speakers on how a truly people-centered water action should look like, and the policy recommendations, as well as the ways forward. One thing for sure is that we, the civil society organizations, and the people's movements must relentlessly continue to pressure our governments and multinationals to stop viewing rivers as sources of profit. Rivers are a source of life, culture, and livelihood. The intrinsic relationship with rivers, forest, and land must be recognized and respected. Thank you to our speakers for also highlighting these notorious multinationals that are prioritizing profits over people's rights. We must continue to pressure these private entities to stop their destructive projects that have massive environmental impacts to both people and environment. And just to affirm, we are together in demanding and defending the rights of environmental defenders, defending our rivers and waters. Well, climate change is exacerbating both water scarcity and water-related hazards, such as floods and droughts. As rising temperatures disrupt precipitation patterns and the entire water cycle, water and climate change are inextricably linked. Climate change affects the world's water in complex ways, from unprecedented rainfall patterns to shrinking ice sheets, rising sea levels, floods, and droughts. Water scarcity is one issue that has been on the rise, especially among the urban poor in most African countries. For instance, in Nairobi, water supply is unable to meet the fast-growing demand due to rural-urban migration. Water is unreliable even to the small minority who have direct connection to tapped water. For those who cannot get enough water, reliance on alternative and regulated service suppliers is a necessity. But these practices cost much higher than the legal rate. There is a need to create awareness that water is integral for sanitation and hygiene. Where water is scarce, sanitation is compromised, and hygiene is poor. In the Africa region, liberalization and deregulation policies imposed by the World Trade Organization and other trade and investment agreements facilitated the expansion of monocrop plantation, chemical-based agriculture, privatization of public services, and hazardous production processes. These practices promoted and advanced by big private corporations fuel the engine that drives biodiversity loss, natural and man-made disasters, and resource grabbing from communities, as well as farmers and indigenous peoples, among others. Thus, trade policies and practices directly impact and, in fact, worsen the climate crisis. The climate crisis, in turn, exacerbates poverty, inequality, and conflict within the region. Corporate entities fuel climate crisis while taking away our resources, such as water. Privatization of water has affected millions of Africans, especially the urban poor, indigenous communities, peasants, farmers, and rural women. This is because commercialization of water causes an increase of water rates, and therefore affordability of water is on the basis of affordability. Water scarcity in the region has resulted in local, national, regional, and intercontinental conflicts. At the local level, communities have been fighting due to shrinking water points. On the regional level, there has been conflicts between countries on the Nile Treaty, which has been said to be unfair to upstream countries. For instance, Kenya imports electricity from Uganda. which generates electricity from the Nile, and this Nile is actually fed by rivers from Kenya. For Ibon Africa, climate resilience also requires involving people and communities who are defending their lives and livelihoods in shaping and owning development policies as well as the programs. This means supporting and encouraging civil society organizations and people's movements in demanding for inclusion and democratic participation in relevant government processes related to climate action. Development must be democratic in nature, in that it has a human rights-based approach. Peoples should have the power to make their choices and claim their rights both individually and collectively. For development to be equitable and to benefit the whole of society, it must go beyond merely producing more goods and increasing incomes. Economic growth must, through equitable redistribution, lead to eradication of multidimensional poverty and inequality. At the same time, development must be sustainable to be truly beneficial in the long run. For us, committing to the flow of people-centered water action means committing to address the systemic barriers to the people's rights to their own resources. From rivers to wetlands, it means holding accountable those who take away this right. It means listening to the demands of communities from Africa to Asia, to the Pacific, to the Latin America, who are already fighting for sufficient water and accessible, safe, sufficient and accessible water. Let us continue developing our solidarity in this common struggle as our lives and rights are at stake. Thank you.